Hey everybody! This week's booktube video is going to be a little bit of a sneak peek. I'm going to talk about some of the books that I'm going to be talking about in the next few weeks. So I guess that this video is kind of like a combo wrap-up and TBR. For those of you who aren't familiar with booktube lingo, a wrap-up is when you talk about the books that you've recently finished, usually like at the end of a month, and a TBR is your to-be-read list, the books that you plan on reading in the near future. So this is a mix of books that I've just finished reading and books that I'm just about to read, both of which I plan to talk to you about on this channel.
Now for a taste of things to come.
So first, let's start with the books that I recently just finished reading. I recently, or actually a little while ago, finished reading the Chaos Walking trilogy by Patrick Ness. This trilogy blew me away. It is, I think, some of the deepest, most thoughtful writing about gender and violence and peace and indigenous people's issues, all combined into a incredibly gripping and visceral sci-fi future dystopia. It's amazing, so I can't wait to talk to you about that. The other thing that I recently finished that is also incredible is the Lock and Key series of graphic novels. These books are horror graphic novels about a family that sort of has a terrible, violent experience and moves across country to be in the mansion that their family owns on the East Coast in a little village called Lovecraft, which should have been a sort of warning to them about these sorts of things that would happen in the mansion. Now I'm going to talk to you about a couple books that I'm reading with my kids. I have two sons, an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old, and we like to read together every evening. We're just about to finish up Black Beauty, and then we're starting on this one, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I have, of course, read all the Harry Potter books several times, but this is the first time my boys are getting to experience them. And then we're also going to read this book by Neil Gaiman, The Graveyard Book. You can never go wrong with Gaiman. Now I'm going to talk to you about a couple nonfiction books that I'm reading. This one, The Utopia of Rules, on Technology, Stupidity, and the Secret Joys of Bureaucracy by David Graeber. David Graeber is an incredible thinker, one of a few people who I would put at the top of my list of people that you should always read everything they write. His last book, Debt, The First 5,000 Years, was a tour de force, incredible take on the entire history of the development of credit economy and how that has influenced our lives in all sorts of unforeseen ways. And then the other book that I'm about to pick up is this one, The Indigenous Peoples' History of the United States by Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. You might be familiar with A People's History of the United States, which sort of pioneered this idea of trying to write history from below instead of history that always focused on, great men and women and their accomplishments and deeds and the big events of history. Instead, trying to focus on what the story would have been like from the perspective of the lower classes, the people who ordinarily don't get to have their stories told in history books. This is the same kind of concept, however, specifically focusing on an indigenous person's perspective. Also on Kindle, I recently picked up Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me. It's been getting incredible reviews, and I can't wait to read it. And lastly, a couple novels that I'm reading purely for my own fun. And this is one I meant to get to for years and years, and just somehow never did. Neal Stephenson's Snow Crash. I love Neal Stephenson's work. It's always like mind trip, kind of amazing, weird ways of thinking about things. So I'm looking forward to some of his early work here in Snow Crash. And then I'm going to pick up John Scalzi's latest book, Lock-In, which I just got from the library. I can't wait to dig into this one. I loved Red Shirts. I know that this isn't the same kind of satire comedy that was, but I really like Scalzi's work, so I can't wait to read Lock-In. And lastly, I also picked up on Kindle Diana Gabaldon's entire Outlander series. I read the first 3 books of the Outlander series a long time ago, like when I was in high school. I'm not going to say how long ago that was. And really enjoyed them, but for some reason I just never continued with the series as new books came out. So I'm excited to go back, reread those first 3 to refresh myself, and then finish reading the whole series. So there you go, that's a little preview of what's coming up on my channel. I plan to try to intersperse nonfiction with novels and graphic novels and stuff to keep it interesting for everyone. I don't know, maybe eventually I'll even review Twilight. Did you know, in addition to loving books, that I'm also an author? Along with my two dearest friends, Doug Hagler and Nick Larson, I wrote this book, Never Pray Again. It's a little book of spirituality. It looks at a bunch of different forms and types of prayer and asks how we might shape these prayers in ways that are actually concrete actions that are designed to help our neighbors rather than inward-focused actions of spirituality, which in fact can sometimes serve as distractions from doing the harder work of being compassionate. I'd love it if you'd pick up and read this book and let me know in the comments what you think of it if you do.